Your Excellency, distinguished guests, you have your rifles, you have your bayonets, helmets on, ready. The blood pulsing in your veins, your heartbeat echoing in your head. This is it, that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity you have waited for, to fight the monstrous enemy. Shoulder to shoulder with all your mates, the order to attack is imminent. The first Turk is mine, someone yells. You all laugh, but it's nervous laughter. The whistle is blown, and the attack begins. As you race across the hilly landscape, one of your friends falls beside you, a bullet in his chest, but you keep running. It won't happen to me, you tell yourself. It won't happen to me. It can't. You are in Gallipoli. The year is 1915. You are part of the New Zealand Army, and this campaign will change you forever. Will anyone remember you? War, described as a brutal conquest for power, a violent struggle between nations. In 1914, the prospect of war excited and thrilled many young men, and New Zealanders were no exception. New Zealand was still a developing nation. We saw England as home, and though many did not fully understand the reasons for war, they knew one thing, that they would fight to defend our country and our allies. The atmosphere for these men to enlist was overwhelming. On every street corner, you could see dozens of posters of Lord Kitchener's face. He was there, glaring at you, pointing, urging you to join up, to fight for king and for country. Thousands of men would answer this call to arms, enlisting with their friends, their workmates, their brothers. 1/10 of our population would leave New Zealand for World War I to begin training for battle, enthusiastic and ready. Would these men still have wanted to go had they known what awaited them? The hell of Gallipoli. You wipe the sweat from your brow and curse. Curse the day this war ever began. This campaign was meant to be over in less than a week, yet now you have been fighting for months on end against an enemy you hardly see. The smell of death is inescapable, filling your lungs and nostrils with every breath. The heat is unbearable, and whenever you try to eat or drink, the flies swarm about you, relentlessly, endlessly. The days drag on, and with each one, more friends are lost, and your heart is that much emptier. The fighting is awful. You don't know how many Turks you've killed, but you don't care. The enemy is not what you had expected. The Turk is not a monster, as the posters and propaganda told you. The Turk is human. He feels, he bleeds, and he dies, just like your friends. This is it. This is it. The adventure that you went looking for. This hell. This tomb. Gallipoli. Will anyone remember us? What you have just heard is a situation based on how Gallipoli was for the Anzacs. And it is no exaggeration. The Gallipoli campaign was a blunder right from the start. When the Anzacs arrived, tasked with taking the high ground of Chunuk Bair, they were landed at the wrong place, 2 kilometers north of where they were supposed to. The Anzacs were not met with the low plain they had expected, but with vast hills, deep valleys, and treacherous undergrowth. Soon enough, the Gallipoli campaign became what it had been designed to avoid: trench warfare, as both sides dug in an enduring stalemate. In these conditions of dirt, disease, and deprivation, many men were lost, and some no longer cared whether they lived or died. One veteran remarked, "Anybody who says that under those conditions that they had no fear is just imagining things, because he does." Another said, "I would laugh at those who said they had no fear, because they are lying." Yet the brave New Zealanders fought on, displaying a character that had already started to grow on them. It was a character of determination, self-confidence, and courage that drove these men into fighting for their homeland to the very end. From the shores of Anzac Cove to the slopes of Chinook Bear, these soldiers held on against impossible odds until finally, after 9 long months of fighting, evacuation was called. The Anzacs then journeyed to the Western Front, where they fought until the Great War came to its ultimate end in 1918. Why do we remember Gallipoli and the involvement of New Zealand in World War I? Why do we acknowledge the deeds of our ancestors in this terrible chapter of history? The answer is simple. We celebrate the bravery, courage, and valor which personified the Anzacs as they fought on those slopes in Gallipoli. We realize how much World War I has shaped our growing nation and contributed to the personality of New Zealand. It gave us a sense of national pride in our country as well as in ourselves, resulting in the Anzac commemorations as we know them. To have travelled so far and to have given up so much, it's hard to imagine the same situation today. In 1914 New Zealand, boys younger than me were being trained for battle, whilst in comparison, my only experience of war is shooting at pixelated men on a TV screen in my comfortable armchair. The reality of war is harsh. I lost a great-great-grandfather to World War I. He was killed, leaving behind a wife and 3 children. And though I never knew him, I know he died a hero, serving his country valiantly. Having done this speech, however, I want to know more about him, and I want him to be remembered. Therefore, when we think of New Zealand, Gallipoli, and World War I, we should think not of blood, terror, and violence, but of great men. A generation of heroes who gave their lives to make our world a better place. It is finished. After 9 months of disease, heartache, and endless slaughter, the campaign, which cost 450,000 dead or wounded, Gallipoli, is over. You gathered your gear and left your trench behind you with gifts of rum and medals for the Turks who you once called enemy. As you leave the shores of Anzac Cove, where countless of your brothers lie in unnamed graves, you look out at the horizon and wonder, will anyone remember you? 100 years from this campaign, in 2015, will others look back? Imagine how it was. Judge what you did. Feel what you felt. More importantly, will the people of the future view you as a hero? Can they learn from what has happened to prevent such a waste of life from happening again? The answer? Yes. They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.